Voice artists, this is from the BBC. Voice artists sue tech company for stealing their voices. Well, let's see. Before we start, I don't know if you remember, like, I think it was OpenAI. They wanted the voice from Scarlett Johansson. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that was the case. Because I don't know what's with people in my field, but like, they all fantasize about the film Her. I don't know if you watched it. It's a film where a guy gets an operative system that has an AI agent in it, and then the agent learns with his stuff, and then he falls in love with the you know, disembodied artificial intelligence agent that lives in his computer. That's the gist of it. Scarlett Johansson was the voice. Everyone is obsessed with this film. I don't know why. I guess that's they're not as obsessed with the film as you should be obsessed with avoiding the top of the hour ad break that is coming in 3 minutes, unless you use your Prime or you you subscribe or you use Turbo. You know, that said, everyone seems to be obsessed with this film, and they want to replicate it. And specifically OpenAI, they wanted the voice from Scarlett Johansson, and Scarlett Johansson said, "No, I'm not interested in giving you license to use my voice." So what did they do? They allegedly in Minecraft, some would say, that they did it anyway. So the assistant, the voice assistant that they have for ChatGPT, connected to ChatGPT and whatnot, that demo that they did with conversation and whatnot, the people went like, wait, this voice is kind of, wait a minute, this voice is kind of similar to that one of Scarlett Johansson, is it not? And they go like, no, it might be similar, but it's different enough that you can't prove it. They didn't say that, but like, it's different enough that it's not. So this is not Scarlett Johansson. This is we generated a general purpose, you know, female voice that you know, happens to be similar to Scarlett Johansson. How did they get it to be similar to Scarlett Johansson? Well, who knows? Can you prove anything? And that's, I don't know, that was the tip of the iceberg for this sort of stuff. Now you see, I don't know, David Attenborough selling you cryptocurrency schemes. David Attenborough's voice scamming you on TikTok. You got Howie Mandel is a popular one. I don't know, but I'm sure it's Howie Mandel. Howie Mandel's voice, like in TikToks and whatnot, is everywhere. And you're like, it's not Howie Mandel, it's just a general purpose, you know, yeah, that happens to be similar. Yeah, right. It is what it is. Allegedly, in the Minecraft server, some people think. I have to make a voice like Scarlett Johansson. You take Scarlett Johansson's voice and then tweak just enough not to get hella sued. Yeah, but that's what I mean. And I guess we're gonna look at this and we're gonna discuss it. But I got strong opinions, but it's actually because I'm the one making these things as well. I'm the one making the tech. I'm the one making the technology that allows these things to work, to exist. And so you're gonna get my perspective from that point of view. Not from someone that, you know, just, it is what it is. It is what it is, you know, it's close enough. Technology, you can't stop progress. Anyway, let's see this. Voice artist sues tech company for stealing their voice. BBC News.
Tech companies stole our voices, made clones of them as AI clones, and sold them possibly hundreds of thousands of times.
Yeah.
This is Paul and Linnea, voiceover actors based in New York City. Last summer, they were in the car listening to a podcast about the Hollywood writer's strike and how it might affect VO artists like them when something strange happened.
This specific episode, the host was going to interview an AI entity about the potential harm that AI will have on the entertainment industry.
Okay.
And he is interviewing my voice.
Good morning. Is it okay with you if I call?
Here's the thing. They have enough plausible deniability that they can go, it's not your voice. It's a similar voice. And that's... Listen, I have no problem. I gotta say, before we watch this, I have no problem with people creating voice clones from other people and from voice actors. It's not that. Some people go, oh yeah, did you think that your job was safe because you have a voice? Oh yeah, AI is going for that too. It's coming for that too. It's not just the guy that's being replaced in a warehouse with a robot that can pack stuff away. It's not that guy. It's not just the guy at the toll, you know, validating your ticket. It's not just the cashier going away. You are going away too. No, I actually don't think so. I see voice work, specifically voice work, which is what we're talking about, as a performance. So it's like saying, it's like you selling the rights to a song, basically. It's not that it's hard to do or not. It's that it's unique in the sense that it's like a performance. It's like I could play a song from someone else, right? I could do it, but I'm not that someone else, so I can't make money out of it, right? But I'm not against creating clones for voices. What I'm against is how they're doing it. So say you want data. They can't do it without the data. First of all, say you want data to create these AI voices. You go around and you pay people to gather the data. How much you pay for that data will be reflective of how much is a voice of someone worth to you. And if you're using the voice to replace the person in the positions that... I'm not against replacing people that voice certain things in... if they're compensated adequately. Okay, every time someone uses a song, you should get a royalty, right? What's the difference between that? What's the difference between that and a voice? And someone's voice doing an ad, doing an advertisement, or being a chatbot. You can reproduce the piece of music anytime you want, as long as you pay the musician. The musician doesn't need to do it again. And in this case, it's a bit more general than that. Voice cloners are getting better. You can generalize. You don't need that much data. I can take any of your voices, any of your... I don't know. I could take any of my streams and get a clone in no time. Because you only need about, I don't know, I would say a couple of, maybe like 100 sentences or so, and expressions, you know. But of course, getting a tone or getting an accent right, it might require more data. And it's hard to generalize from person to person. Even though you can kind of do it, it's still kind of wacky right now. And it's going to get better. But without that data, you don't get a model. And so I'm not against this, as long as we have licenses in place for things like this that say something like, you want to sell your voice to our model so we can use it and mix it up with other voices to create our unique voices, whatever? Sure, but we're going to pay you a shitload of money for it. Instead of just, you want to do some voice work? We're going to pay you as if it was another job. And then they go behind your back and they use your voice for other stuff, for whatever the f they want. I'm against that. It's not that this is not going to be inevitable. It is. It's that the sleaziness and the fact that they can just say, oh, it's not exactly your voice. It's kind of, you know, it's a version of your voice. It's not your voice anymore because it's different. It's the same argument they use with AI generative art, and it's the same bad argument for the same reason. Am I crazy here? Let's watch this. Let's see what happened.
Call you Poe?
Absolutely. Billy, feel free to call me Poe. As a generative AI technology...
How disturbing and terrifying that moment was.
See, even that reproduction of his voice is not that good. It's gonna get better, but it's still disturbing because they used his voice for something that he didn't consent to. And they can say, can you prove it's your voice? It's not. Many people have similar voices. You know?
Is hard to articulate.
I spent 6 hours on the internet that night, searching as many text-to-speech.
And just as a final
products that I
point,
could
sorry
find
to
and
be pausing so
listening to-
much, but you know this pisses me off. As a final point, it is. You could say, okay, I'm not using your voice. I'm using like a mix of your voice and other people's voices to create this new voice that is kind of different. Yeah, but you have to pay people accordingly. You would have to license the people you use in your data to create your model. And that means that people need to know that their voice is going to be used to create the model. The AI hype people have a real difficult time with not stealing, yeah. It's just they don't understand the concept that it's not that the technology is bad, it's that the way in which they're doing it, it's sneaky, and it's like rat behavior. It's like ultimate capitalism above all else, fucking rat, the lowest of the low behavior. Even if it's still fused with others, they're still using your voice. Yes, you will not have a model if you don't train. Like, the model can extrapolate beyond the data it has seen. Yes, I know that. I work with this all the time. I do like work in language modeling. I've dabbed in some, you know, speech synthesis as well. I'm like, the models extrapolate, yes, and they create something new, kinda. But without the data, without the original data, they cannot do it. They can't. What are you gonna extrapolate from? Right? What the f are you extrapolating from? And then you can say, yeah, okay, then we're just gonna train our models from publicly available voices and whatnot and actors, and then create something that is akin to the voices that might exist. Sure, but in those cases, you really have to disclose your sources, because most of the time you could use data from people that have died a long time ago, and then, you know, and eventually that will happen. Eventually we'll have enough data publicly available that we can create general purpose voices that will replace certain jobs that these people did in the past and no longer will be asked to do, because the model will be good enough, you know? That is fine. My problem is that right now, they're not doing that. They're not taking data, and you cannot... Hell, they even train language models on transcriptions of YouTube videos because they run out of text. It's the same kind of issue. They're stealing data from people without compensating them and making money from it. That's the gist of it. And in my opinion, you shouldn't be able to do that. And the fact is, we don't have legislation for this sort of stuff, so you're seeing more and more. These cases will make it or break it. I'm glad that there are cases that say, like, oh, you cannot copyright AI-generated art, for instance. Because there are people that are alleging that, oh yeah, but I'm using it as a tool. I'm using it as a tool to create something different, and I come up with the words that I feed these models for them to create this piece of art, and then alter, and then it's my piece of art. I made it. The f*** you didn't. You used the model that stole from everybody else to make, and you input some words to make your piece of art. Yes, it's different from everything that existed before. Still, you cannot copyright it because you didn't make it. Technically, you didn't make it because there's no provenance. There's no provenance of where the generative process came from. So, if you have a piece of art, if you have, you know, say a painter. The painter does the piece of art. The provenance of that piece of art is the artistic skills of the painter, right? Is a putting hand and brush to canvas and creating a painting. That's the provenance of provenance of the work. If you take a photo, which is another argument that people, oh, the cameras are gonna, you know, and the painter's works and portraits. If you take a photo, the guy that took the photograph, that captured that image that exists in the world, right? That framing, that moment in time was captured by that person. That's the provenance of the work. But in generative models, being it of voice or artwork or whatever, the provenance is they go around, they feed it as much data as they can put their hands on without anyone's consent. You know, the media, the origin of the work, it's dubious in the sense that they could tell you what their sources are, exactly what went into making that piece of art, you know, the sources that they used to train their models, but they don't want to do that because then they would have to tell you that they're taking data they're not entitled to. But that's anyway, let's watch the rest of it.
all of the voices that they offered until I stumbled upon Lovo.
Lovo are this company, a Berkeley-based text-to-speech platform. Just type what you want to hear.
And one of dozens of synthetic voices like this one. Or maybe this one.
Or this one will read it back in a matter of
This is f***ing Howie Mandel, is it not?
seconds.
On the company site, Linnea said she found an AI voice that sounded
It's
just
the main
like
TikTok
Paul.
voice, exactly what I said.
I
Yeah.
was stunned. I couldn't believe it. And out of pure curiosity, I just started listening to the other voices, thinking maybe I'll recognize someone I know, a colleague from the voiceover world. And that's when I stumbled upon my voice.
So in May, Paul and Linnea filed a class action lawsuit against Lovo, saying the company illegally stole their voices and identities without permission or proper compensation. The company has not yet filed a response. So
Here's the thing. People will say, most likely, you cannot prove that this is your voice. They are right. You cannot prove that their voices were stolen. You can't. There's no way to do it. Unless the company discloses exactly where they got the data to create the voices, and they show you, because you can do that. You can take the data, you can take the code that is trained on the data, and you can show how this thing turns into this thing, right? You can show like how the data feeds into the model, and then you can show that, see, it produces this voice. You can do it. We have the technology. I know, right? Strange. But unless they do that, you don't have a way to prove it is your voice. But there is another argument to be made here. What if you tweak voices in such a way that you create, we need to discuss these things, right? These things are not gonna, you're not gonna have legislation without talking about it. But what happens if I show you that I take a bunch of voices of people that license their voice freely and they understood what the voices were being used for and they got paid for it, right? They got compensation or they agreed to it. What if I can show you that I can take those voices and I can create a voice that is very similar to yours, or very similar to the point that you can't distinguish it from... It's tricky. I would say if you can show that the provenance of your data is people that agreed to the data being gathered to create this model, and then you create a voice that is very similar to another, then you have a defense. Unless you're doing shitty things with the voice, right? Unless you're impersonating someone, that's a different story. I'd say that if you can prove, and you can, that you take a bunch of voices and you create a different voice, and that voice happens to be similar to that other person's, then that might be okay. But if not, you don't have a way to, people don't have a way to say, oh, they stole my voice. All they have is, it sounds like me. I don't know, what do you guys think? But the sleazy way of just taking stuff and feeding it to your model, taking publicly available pieces of work and feeding it into like videos and stuff and feeding it to your model to create voices that the person did not consent to, this is problematic to me. Same with AI.
It even happen.
So in October of 2019, a freelancing site that I'm on where I regularly procure voiceover work reached out to me asking if I would record some scripts for them.
The couple say the scripts were generic radio ads, ones the user said would never be broadcast, so they didn't need expensive usage rights.
They were quite generic. You know, do you need a dry cleaner in Idaho? We're here, right around the corner. Your neighborhood dry cleaner.
Paul says about 6 months later, he got a similar request to record dozens of generic-sounding radio scripts. In messages the couple shared with the BBC, you can see the user appears to say the audio will be used for research into speech synthesis. Paul follows up to clarify whether the audio will be used for anything other than their specific research. In the next message, the user then appears to confirm the audio will not be used for anything else.
Oh
And then I asked, will you be changing the order of my audio or using it in any...
No, but that's the point. You can't say that. You can't ask that. Because if you ask, will my voice be used in any other way? The answer is obviously no, because the model is not producing your voice. The model is producing a voice based on your voice's data. You see the difference? It's not your recording. They're not taking your recording. And this is not how the models work, by the way. The models actually output sound waves. They output the whole thing. They do not rearrange. So in the past, when you did text-to-speech stuff, one way to do it was concatenation. And you see that, I believe you see that in, nowadays you see that in like trains, tube stations, you know, the metro stations. When you hear those announcements, you can clearly hear like recordings, and sometimes you hear like segments that have been pre-recorded and segments that were glued to create the sentence, because you can hear like the next station is, you know, that sort of intonations are from different recordings. You can see that in the past, that's how it was done. You were using audio files to create and rearrange the recordings to create new sentences. That's how they did it. That's how you had someone record a couple of sentences, and then you could use it to, you know, to do the tube announcements or like the, you know, that sort of stuff. The bus announcements, whatever. Now, that's not how it works. So if you ask, will my recording be used for anything else? The answer is no, because it's not going to be your recording anymore. It's going to be data goes in, the model does its stuff, and actual sound waves that didn't exist before come out. It's not your recording. So if you ask, will my recording be used for something else? Technically, the answer is no, but a thing that sounds like your voice might. You know what I mean?
A separate way, and they said no.
As for Linnea, she says the user she spoke with deleted part of the conversation. But in the communications that remain, it appears the user presents the scripts as test radio ads, ones that will not be disclosed externally.
Like, what do you need to ask? Will this recording be used to mimic my voice? Yes, you would need to ask something akin to, will you use my voice in a model as data for a model that will reproduce it, you know? Will you use my voice? Will you create a model that mimics my voice? And what's the use of that model exactly? What kind of... I don't give you permission to like just sell the model that sounds like me, you know? Do you know what I mean? You need to ask, will you use it to create a model of my voice? You might ask different things. If you're okay with that, you could ask, what is the use of the said models? And then you could say, I'm okay with this, but we need to license it for this use, for instance. You could only use my modeled voice for, you know, audiobooks, to create audiobooks, for instance. And you need to pay me this much. But if you ask, will my recordings be used for something else? No, your recordings will cease to exist. And the only thing that will exist is the model. There's just a bunch of numbers, basically, a bunch of numbers that you run and output a sound wave that sounds exactly like your voice, but it's not your voice. So it's kind of like the genie. It's when you ask for a wish and you need to be careful with what you wish for, because legally, because we don't have legislation, I guess they're not lying. It's like AI art. You can ask, will my images be used for something else? They can say, no, your images are not going to be used for something else. But we're going to take them, feed it to our model that will create images based on your images that then we will sell, right? But technically, your images will not be used. It's not like they're copy-pasting parts of your image to use to create something new, you know? Same with the recordings. It's not like they're cutting the recordings and rearranging them and just, you know, massaging the audio to make it like something new, like the recordings you hear in the train stations. That's not what's happening. And so technically they're not lying, but they're scamming you. Either way.
The couple said there was no formal contract, just these messages they've shared with us. We can't, however, verify if these are the complete conversations. In both cases, though, the couple recorded the audio, sent the files, and moved on.
We only need a person to read 50 sentences, and I believe that's something an average Joe could do.
The voice you're hearing is Tom Lee, co-founder of Lovo, speaking on a business podcast about how their voice cloning technology works.
Yeah,
you can capture
so you don't need a
the
lot.
tone, the character, the style, the phonemes, and how you even, you know, if you have an accent, we can even capture that as well.
Mm-hmm.
We reached out to Lovo on multiple occasions to request an interview with Mr. Lee.
It's
We
not
also
very
asked
good
for
right
any
now.
correspondence or conversation.
I gotta say, it's getting better. It's getting to the point that is usable, So it doesn't need to be, it doesn't even need to be good, that good. It's not, there's still quirks to the generated voices, but they're getting better and the models are getting better. They're getting better in imitating what a natural voice sounds like. And eventually we'll get there. And mark my words, we'll get there, and that's not bad. That is not bad. Again, I have nothing against this sort of technology because we have excellent uses for it. And eventually, low-hanging fruit in the work of voiceovers and stuff like that will no longer exist, and it is what it is. What I am against, though, is that we don't have licenses for this. I don't know what you guys think. I think that's a fair position to have here. Is that eventually certain types of jobs will disappear in this space, but like voice work is also like a performance, and you can license your voice data to create these models, and you could even license it for specific purposes. You could say, you can't sell my modeled voice for certain things, right? I don't want my voice used. I don't want the model based on my voice to be used. Or I don't want any model that uses my voice in the data, even if it doesn't sound like me, to be used in certain things. As long as we had those licenses, I think this technology is perfectly fine. But that's not how people are doing it.
Conversations they may have with Paul and Linnea. They did not respond to any of our messages.
So what's going on in the voice actor cases are a field of law known as rights of publicity. The thing that's being copied is not a piece of copyrighted work, but a piece of someone's personality, right? And so then we get these personality rights or rights of publicity where the allegation is not you copied my song or you copied my drawing, but rather you copied my voice.
Professor Garcia.
I disagree with this. By the way, I disagree with her. You're not copying anyone's personality. You're using their performance. So I think this is a bad way of seeing this. You're using their performance, which is a performance, and you might argue that if you are well known, your voice has certain characteristics that identify you and whatnot. But what you're copying is certain patterns of certain speech patterns that might be unique to you. That much is true. But it's not like your personality. I do not agree with this assessment, and I don't think that's a good way to look at it. I think that what you're copying is, what you need to look at is as if the data about your voice is like a performance, is like a piece of any other piece of art that you have out there, and you have to license it for specific uses, and you would need to create the said licenses because they don't exist. For specific uses with this kind of language in it, with the language that making sure that people understand that their voice is going to be modeled.
It also says the licenses the couple granted the user who contacted them may have also been violated.
Licenses are permission for a very specific and narrow use, right? I might give you a license that you can swim in my swimming pool one afternoon, but that doesn't mean you can come whenever you want and have a party in my swimming pool, right? That would exceed the terms of the license. And I think that would be the argument for these voice actors here.
The voices have since been removed from the company's website, but an ad still exists online where Paul's supposed voice clone can be heard. So I sat down with the couple to take a listen myself.
Introducing Jenny by Lovo. Artificial intelligence that makes it fast and easy to create voiceovers for marketing, e-learning, documentaries, animations, games, audiobooks, and more.
It's serviceable. It's not
Jenny by Lovo. Artificial intelligence that makes it fast and easy to create voiceovers for marketing, e-learning, documentaries, animations, games,
my God,
audiobooks, and more.
When we
Sounds
all
just
thought
like
of
him.
AI in the future, we thought AI is going to be folding our laundry and making us dinner. We didn't think AI is going to replace human beings' creative endeavors.
It's not.
It's just one of many being
Here's what I think it's not.
Artists who don't want to lose control over their work and livelihoods, and more are likely to come.
We really have no other choice but to stand up and give our energy to this, because when companies develop technology that way, it's not innovation anymore, it's just exploitation.
It is, yeah. He's not wrong. Hello? Did you like the video? If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, if you have the bell, press the bell. Otherwise, you know, you don't get the juicy stuff next time. Is this how you do it? What do you mean, no? Oh, also, love your face. Bye. Bye. Click the things.